Today's guest is Larry Clay. He's the founder and president at Clay Construction. So Larry, thank you for coming on the show.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tats. Much appreciated. You and I have connected on social media, so nice that you and I can be doing a Zoom call together.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been at this a while, right? You're a custom home builder,
Yeah.
and when did this all start?
Well, I started long even before I was a custom home builder. I was a teacher for 17 years, and with a big family, a wife and six kids, I was always in construction since about 1989. And so I started building in the 90s for myself, moved into it. Eventually, that led to starting my own company 2003. And I left teaching 2004. And
Yeah,
must say, I love teaching. And I still have lots of connections with my former students. So I love seeing them.
yeah. What were you teaching?
Well, my love was phys ed. I just absolutely loved every sport. I want to go to, Olympics, world champion. I was going to be a five-sport athlete, but I was a young kid dreaming. I didn't do any of it. But I was just into sports uh, immensely. So I played almost everything. And so phys ed was my love. That's what I started 10 years. Eventually, they said, "You want to start a shop program with?" And I said, "With air tools and hoists." They said, "Yes." So we did mechanics, had a high school drag racing team, and we just did. That was a ton of fun. But then I left that to run my own company and try my hand at this.
Yeah. I mean, was it something that you always wanted to do in terms of starting your own company, or was it something inspired you?
No, I my dad, was a very good employee. And I think my uncles were very good employees. And that's kind of what I had modeled to me was being an employee. So starting my own business was kind of in our family a little bit of a you're kind of moving outside of the lines here. And so I had to, as a teacher, I didn't know anything about contracts and branding and marketing and cash flow. And I mean, this is all new to me. So I had to learn it all kind of the hard way.
Where were some of the hard lessons early on?
Well, I know there's one that stands out to me that really taught the lesson well. We were building spec homes for the market at the time. It was we would sell the homes, unfinished basements, and I had a number of homes in a row. And the first home sold, and the homeowner said, "Hey, could you finish the basement?" And so I did a rough and dirty budget. I said, "Yeah, it's $26,000 back then to finish the basement. But if you want a kitchen, it's 35. Well, we don't know if we want a kitchen yet, but let's get started and make the decision later." So I got started because all my framer was there already. We could get going. We had drywallers there, electricians, and so this would be easy for me to finish off. So we got going. No contract, nothing in writing, and just my good word. And so we get to the end. Of course, I don't invoice. I just finish it, and they're happy. They did choose a kitchen, by the way. So we finished it with a kitchen. And so I sent them an invoice for $35,000 because they chose the kitchen option. And they said, "That's not what we agreed upon." I said, "Yes, it is." "No, it's not. You said $26,000. I said, "Yes, but without a kitchen." And they said, "We don't recall that." And so I ended up taking 26,000 and losing money on the job, and I had nothing in writing. That was one of the first lessons, and I just said, I am not going to let somebody else's urgency dictate how I run my business. So from now on, I'm going to get everything in writing, do a budget, get in writing, and so that's one of the lessons you learn the hard way.
Yeah. So, getting a business up in 2003 and then going through 2008, what was that like for you at the time?
Oh, what was it like? You're talking to the right guy. Well, October of 2008, I am unloading a compactor from my truck into the Bobcat. Bobcat had safeties broken. So I stepped in, and what happened was the arm hold, that controls the bucket moves up and down, caught me under my chin. All I knew was it happened so fast. I didn't know what foot was doing it. I gave up. It was so quick. I just knew this is how I'm dying. I'm being decapitated. This is how there was no fear, there was no pain, and I knew it would be a painless, quick, painless death. And and so and this how I would be found by my wife and my young twins who would be coming home shortly after. And what happened was, this arm passes this metal roof, but misses by about an inch, and somehow my neck squeezed out, and I was bruised from shoulder to shoulder, and I I lost my voice, but probably more importantly, I was in shock, PTSD, whatever you call it. I was I was raw emotionally. I couldn't believe I was still alive, and I walked around in a kind of a daze for a month, just shocked I was alive, and thankful, obviously, that I'm alive. But it was, and so a week after this, so a week after this happened, I'm still very raw. My accountant phones me and says, Larry, these all these spec homes you're building, you've run out of money. And so we had a plan where the first one's finished would get sold and pay off for the finishing of the next ones, and nothing is selling. And I just realized I'm going bankrupt. A wife and six kids. And so I talked with my wife. We had to strategize. What do we do? And and we just said survival only. And so I said, I don't care what you feed us with. You got no complaints from me. There was 7 grain cereal every morning for everybody, whether you like it or not. It didn't matter if you liked it. Homemade bread every lunchtime, homemade buns and soup. And sometimes we had a little piece of meat in the soup. And my wife spent for all groceries, diapers, pull-ups. She had 5 kids in diapers and pull-ups. Cleaning supplies, we lived between $216 and $300 a month. I put rigid insulation on the windows, but a wood burning stove. We put it in the basement to just get some heat in the house. I turned the heat to 14 degrees. I told my kids, you can wear your winter boots and jacket in the house. You're not going to be comfortable at all times, but you won't freeze to death. And we got through it. And eventually the home sold for a loss. We paid everybody back. I did not renegotiate any contracts, paid everybody back. And that was one of those character building moments that you talk about integrity. These are the moments you see if you got integrity. So 2008 was a tough time. So I had to reinvent myself from a spec builder building for the market and selling a product, to now a custom builder selling a service. And that is, I then had to start and look at my systems and how do I communicate and how do I do budgets and how do I let my clients know and change orders, and still that is still a work in progress. I guess you never arrive, but we just keep trying to improve and make systems better, and have happy clients who are pleased with the process, the quality, the scheduling, the trades. Sometimes we hit home runs and sometimes it's a single, but we're always looking to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned earlier that your family was all employees. At what point, and I'm not sure if there was a transition, but they said, "Hey, Larry, you did the right thing." Like, was there a point where they just said, "Okay, we get what you're doing. You did the right thing"? Was there a point in that sort of transitioned?
Uh, to custom building or transition to lifestyle to save money?
Well, but obviously, people that are employees, they don't, they view entrepreneurship as a risk, which it is a risk.
Yeah.
But and they want the best for you, but was there a point where they really understood what you were doing?
Well, at the time, I didn't have. I did have some employees, but they were doing, some of the work on site. We did have to lay some off, and that was hard. I remember my wife crying, and I just had no choice. And then we had one who said, "Hey, Larry, actually, I was going to go out on my own, and I think this is the time to do it." And so he's gone on to have great success. And uh, but my kids look back to that time and they say, "Those are some of the best times of our life." So go figure.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you talked about improvement in processes, like you never arrive. Like from what you were doing when you initially started the custom homes, what sort of changes that you noticed happen throughout that?
Sure. Well, I'll give an example. Prior to 2008, I did some customs, and I wasn't very good at customs. If I built for friends, it tends to go fairly well. I remember one in particular. It was a big house. We had built a big house in Surrey, um, blocks away, and this house was going to be similar in size. So I just did a budget in about 30 minutes. I didn't look at any plans much. I just said, well, it's drywall was this amount. I think it'll be this much. And I just did some little conversions and in about 30 minutes come up with a budget. And so we're building the house and the homeowner calls me, says, Larry, she's got the bill for trusses. It's $12,000. Said, okay, yeah. I'm thinking in my head, well, he's complaining, but I don't know why yet. So I'm just listening. I said, yeah, it's $12,000. And he says, the budget was 8,000. I said, thinking to myself, well, it's $4,000 difference. It is what it is. Say la vie. He says, Larry, you're 50% off. If I was 50% off in my business, I'd go broke. Good point. Let me investigate. So call my trust guy. Hey, trust guy. The other house we did blocks away months ago was 8. This is 12. What gives? Because Larry, the roofs are completely different. This second roof was you had 3 girder trusses, 2 extra beams. That's why it's going to be more money. I said, oh, I don't design trusses. So when I made that move to custom building, I made sure I put about 40 hours into a budget. I'd take the plans, I would send them to my trades, and I would ask them to give me a budget. So now I'm getting some fixed price budgets coming in. And that was really the start to being more accurate with the budget. So that would be one of the areas that we yeah, it's one of the areas that we had to improve to have success. And then I mean, I remember, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, building a house, and the homeowner would have change orders, and we'd have a written off change order, and they'd say, by email, not necessarily on the books, but an email says, yeah, I want to have that window placed there. It's $1,000. So sure, yeah, proves it all. But we weren't including that in the finished cost. And now that all these change orders come, and then they realize that um, the price was higher than they thought. We weren't always updating the final cost. So then we say, okay, that was difficult for them. So I need to do a better job and make sure when I do change orders, we're always changing that final number. And these are things that young builders don't always have everything nailed down. And I think we're just further along that path that we've improved. I still see areas where I say, no, we got to do better. And that's why I say it's always a work in progress. So I humbly say, I like where we're at. I see many areas that need improvement, and when things don't always go the way I like, I'm never happy about it, but we're always seeking to improve. And I think every builder who's honest with himself would say the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed just from learning and improving, you seem to adopt social media and those communications actively. Did that kind of come from you, or were you inspired from outside?
There's always a little bit of inspiration from others. I think I naturally am a good promoter. Business development, my 17 years teaching makes it easy for me to explain things. So um, there, I'm a naturally an extrovert. So I love people, love connecting. Everybody's my friend. And I remember early in our marriage, my wife and I would be driving through a town. I say, "Aha, I have a friend here," and she goes, "Well, when was the last time you talked to?" I don't know, 15 years ago. He's not a friend. He's a friend, and I just kind of like everyone, and they're my friends, and so social media is just connecting with a lot of people. I love it, and I found that as our company grew and my knowledge grew and I would share it, that there's lots of builders who would say, I had no idea how you do it. I'm watching your videos. This is very helpful. So I just continue it. Maybe that's the teacher inside of me.
Sure. And then you got, you're heavily involved in associations. How's that tie into everything you do?
Right. So it brand development. I'm often helping builders improve their brand. And I say focus on three things. One, awards. You want to go out and for your local level, maybe, for us, it's Haven, Home Building Association Vancouver. You want to be a finalist, best house under a million, over a million. You want to be a finalist. And if you're a winner, great. Now you can say you're an award winning builder, renovator. Maybe provincially, the Georgies have a big name here. You want to say you're best custom home builder in BC. You want to say that you're best renovator in BC. You want to say you got best house in all of BC, best kitchen. You want to be a finalist. I remember 2010, first time we were finalists, the Georgies. I was so excited. It was on my shirt. I'm I'm a Georgie finalist. Well, you didn't win. Hey, I'm a finalist. I won. I'm top five. And so that was exciting for me. And so you promote it. You're good enough to be in that league to be a finalist, and eventually you win. And I think almost every time I've won, I've been surprised. I thought, well, it's a nice kitchen, but it must be nicer. It's a nice house, but there's a million of these out there. Once we win. And so, and then I've had homes. I said, this is a bang on winner. I don't know how this one can't win. Well, it doesn't even place. I go, are you kidding me? So I don't know. You enter. So that's awards. I tell people if you want to, and nationally the same thing. So if you want to build your brand, you want to win awards. Number two is just education. You got to be smart. You got to know your stuff. So if you're talking to clients and they say, hey, I want a healthy home. Do you have an answer? Well, how would you get a healthy home? I want an efficient home. Do you know high performance? Do you know wall assemblies? Have you read about anybody, Joe Stiebricks, John Straubs, Gord Cooks? Have you read what they've put out? Do you have a thought on, I want a 2x8 wall and I'll stuff it full of bat and I'll put poly? Is that acceptable to you? It's not to me. And I get reasons why it's not acceptable to me. Do you know where the dew point's going to be? Are you going to have a condensing surface on the other side of the insulation? You don't want that. You want a comfortable, healthy home, and you don't get that when your dew points in the wall and you got condensation building up in the wall assembly and it's not drying out. So you want to have a wall assembly that has drying capacity, inward or outward. So it depends on the material you're using. You can be certified. So you go through our provincial association and you take the courses. You can become a registered housing professional. You take all the courses. You continue to take them. Then there's an element of practically how much project management you have to be able to do. You can earn that certification of master builder. And so now you've won the Grand Georgie for best custom home builder in BC. You're master builder. When you sit down with clients, they're now saying, okay, you sound like you know what you're doing. The third thing that I would focus on is leadership, because there's something nice about being a leader. especially when it's on social media, that people say this guy wouldn't do shoddy work because he's Haven president, provincial president, national president. And so I've just sought leadership and awards and to be educated on my trade. And so when I sit down with clients, they say, okay, you're the guy who pays attention to details. You're not just going to build what 95% of the builders build. You build something better and you care about the details. And that is why I think we have a strong brand. Are we perfect? No. Do my trades mess up? Yes. Do we do the best we can to make it right 100% of the time? So, and it comes out of my pocket.
Makes sense. From there, I mean, the leadership side and you're developing all those things. What are some of the things you come across that are like the common challenges, the wish list items for the industry? Like, what are your things that you're passionate about trying to get improved outside your business?
Sure. Okay. Step code is in BC. I love building high performance. So I modeled a house before step code was code, and the energy step code, and I found out what does it cost to build to step one, two, three, four, five, and for this house, it was about $48,000. I was talking to Greg Hussey out in Newfoundland, and I said, "Hey, Greg, I just modeled a house. Step five, it's going to be about $48,000." Cool, eh? He goes, "Larry, there's absolutely no way that's going to fly in Newfoundland." I said, "Why?" He says, "I sell my houses for 220,000 for house and lot." I went, "Oh, wow. You got a huge challenge. I get it." So I was telling the past president, national past president, Eric Denowden. And I said, "Eric, this is what Greg said." And he says, "Larry, same thing here. I'm in Ontario. I sell my houses 290 house and lot." I went, "Holy cow. I don't know how you guys do it and stay alive." Uh, it, and so I realized there's towns in BC, that would relate to what Eric and Greg had said. So as much as I love high performance, we have to find a way to get there affordably because we do build great houses in Canada, but I want my kids. I get 6 kids. One has bought a house. I got 3 of them trying to buy a house. Housing is very, very unaffordable here, and so affordability is important to me. Um, but when I say affordability, I want to factor in this not just build costs; it's the total cost, and that includes maintenance and operating. And so you have to factor that in. And so if we can find a way to add high performance, and then it you look, let's just say it costs $30,000 more, but so your mortgage is $30,000 higher. What does that cost me? And then you look at your utility bills that have come down. If it's a wash, that's a win because when that mortgage is done in 25 years, you're continuing to enjoy the benefits and it has not cost you anything month to month. And anybody that owns that house will enjoy the lower operating costs. So affordability, you have to look at operating costs and replacement. If you're building a home that's rotting out, it has to be replaced in 80 years. That's not sustainable. Build a better house.
Yeah.
Homes today are lasting 110 years and more. So we routinely are going in renovating 110-year-old home. I was meeting yesterday. House is 110 years old. 2x4 construction. We don't need 2x6 for structure. We need 2x4 for structure. We just let's put the insulation outboard. But we have engineering. We have footings. We have steel. That wasn't common on homes built in 110 years ago. So we can build better homes. They're going to be lasting 200 years. If they're lasting 200 years, and we can decrease the energy costs, that's going to help improve affordability for 200 years.
Yeah, makes sense. So when you're not leading, your business or leading an organization, what do you do? I mean, I see you lifting. So what sort of hobbies do you have?
Lifting. So yeah, sadly, I've had friends who have had some very serious health issues. I'm in my 50s, and I see men getting in their 50s are 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 really struggling, and they've run businesses carrying too much weight, and they they're they're dying. They're coming out of the hospitals. They're going to comas, and this grieves me. So if I get 6 kids and I have to be doing, I'm now making time for me. I'm just saying, 4 days a week, I'm going to the gym. In fact, I'm going to the gym after I'm done with you. I'm heading to the gym, and I got to do my cardio. I get on that rower and I do 10 minutes hard. Then when I'm done, it's only 10 minutes, but it's a hard 10 minutes. I get the heart rate going. It's not just the walk. I do hard cardio, and I like lifting because men are losing muscle mass. When you're in your 50s, you start to lose muscle mass, and I want to keep that as long as I can. So I like lifting, bench, squats, deadlifts, curls, just do some lifting.
Absolutely. Is there anything I did not ask you, but you wanted to cover before we sort of close this off?
Um, I would say lots of things I could say. One is, if you're a builder, renovator, and you're serious about building your brand, join the Home Building Association, because you try to win awards, you try to take courses and classes, you try to have any leadership that's relevant and credible. It's pretty near impossible to do that outside of the association. Building a brand, just join. Any questions, anybody can call me. Go to Instagram, at Larry, it's at the Larry Clay, or my company would be at the Clay Way, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Those are the three that the platforms I use. Um, in terms of, if you got something to say, I focus on kind of 4 areas. Awards. So if I win an award, you're going to see it. If I am leading, speaking somewhere across Canada or the States, you're going to see that. You're going to see me also talking about what I've learned. And so a lot of my videos these days have been, how we install the air barrier, why this product over that product, why we went from 2x10s to 5.5-inch LVL so we could get outboard insulation on the deck. So I share that, and I'll share pretty pictures. People want to see something that is pretty and inspiring, and so I'll focus on those 4 areas. I learned from Steve Basic, influencer down in the States on the Build Show. He worked with Joe Stiebrook, who's probably the number one, building science expert everybody goes to. So he worked with Joe for 10 years, and he was doing reels, and he'd do it horizontal and then vertical. And so I'm doing that now. And so I'm following his lead. So he was one guy that kind of inspired me. But I had 2 posts, one on shear walls that was watched 414,000 times. And I go, well, if I knew that would have been that popular, I would have wore a different shirt. I had no idea that this would be popular. Another one on the garage door coming down, and it was watched almost 300,000 times. And so I had no idea that this would go viral. If I knew that, I would have put more work into it. But you just keep throwing them out there. And every once in a while, something sticks that you have no idea would stick. And every once in a while, I'm really smart and smug and happy with myself, and I get this great video, and it just goes nowhere. So you just keep trying.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Larry, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and story.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me on.